Brilliant. Welcome back, everyone. We're on the third lesson of this week, and we're going to carry on with adding fractions. So don't worry if you found yesterday a bit tricky. We're just going to keep working at the same skill and make sure that we're masters of adding fractions by the end of this week. So looking at pizzas today, not chocolate, a bit of a savory day. Elliot's mother orders 2 pizzas of the same size. Elliot ate 1/3 of one pizza and 1/6 of the other. How much pizza does Elliot eat in all? So he's had 1/3 of one pizza and 1/6 of another. So we've got pizza split into thirds, a pizza split into sixths. If you're trying to draw this out, you may find rather than drawing out pizzas, it's easier to draw out rectangles. Not only are circles hard to draw, circles are really hard to split into fractions. Rectangles are a lot easier, and that's why often we represent fractions as bar models and not as circles when we're drawing them out. It doesn't make a difference. The math's going to work out the same. You just have to imagine it's a rectangular pizza. So what we've got to do, we've got 1/3 and 1/6. We need to make the denominators equal before we can add them. Let's think about what we know. We know that 1/3 cut in half makes a sixth. So thirds mean the pizza is split into 3 parts. Sixths means it's split into 6 parts, double the number. So by multiplying 1/3 by 2, or what I really mean is by multiplying the denominator and the numerator by 2, 1/3 becomes 2/6. These are equivalent fractions. 1/3 is the same as 2/6 of a pizza. There's our third, and if you see that dotted line, it's showing us that's the same size as 2/6. Well, we know that he ate 1/3 and 1/6. If 1/3 is the same as 2/6 and 1/6 is the same as 1/6, sixths are the denominator, they're the same. 2 plus 1, 2 plus 1 equals 3. 3/6 is how much pizza he ate. That's a correct answer, 3/6. However, often we would give our answers in the simplest form. Just have a moment to think about 3 out of 6 parts, and you probably have realized that's half of the pizza. 3 is half of 6. So the simplest way we could write this is to say he ate half of a pizza. Doesn't mean it was half of one pizza, but he ate the equivalent amount of half of a pizza, not half of the pizzas, half of a pizza. Okay. Can you pause this video and find the sum of 1/6, 1/2, and 1/3? There's 2 different ways you might have done this, and they're both going to come up with 1. You could have changed all the denominators to 6. We know there was 1/6. We know that 1/3 is the same as 2/6. And we know that 1/2 is the same as 3/6. So I'd be adding 1/6, 3/6, and 2/6, which would give me 1. So that's one method I could have used. Instead, I could have said that I've got 1/6, 1/2, and 1/3. Well, 1/3 and 1/6 are the same as 1/2. I know that that third is the same as 2/6 plus 1/6, that makes a half, and half is 1. So in this case, what I've done is not change all my denominators straight away, but I've used what I know. I know that a third and a sixth make a half, and that then gave me my denominators both being 2. I can't change each of these fractions to have the same denominator, but I use my knowledge of number bonds. So 2 different ways that I could have got to the same answer. There's no right or wrong method here, but there is a right or wrong answer here. Right. Oh, it's a bit small. Can you pause the video and add up for me 1/6 and 1/6? Hopefully you didn't need to pause for too long. The denominators are the same, sixths. So all we're doing is adding the numerator, 1 plus 1. Brilliant. Hopefully you're all shouting 2 at the television. The answer is 2/6. A little bit trickier, but actually not much trickier. 1/5 plus 3/10. Right, we could halve our tenths, but we know we can't halve 3 and get a whole number. So we're going to have to double our fives. We're going to turn that fifth, 1/5, into tenths. To do that, I multiply my denominator by 2. I make it twice as big, which means my numerator becomes twice as big. So 1/5 would be the same as 2/10. 2/10 plus 3/10 would be 5/10. And this one is a bit trickier. So I'm going to ask you to pause and just have a think. 2/3 plus 1/12. Okay, so just like the last one, I know that I'm going to have to turn my 2/3 into a 12th, simply because I can't do anything with 12 when the numerator is 1. I can't do any divisions. So 3 times what makes 12? How many times bigger do I need to make this? I can cut my 3 pieces in half and get to 6. I can cut each of those pieces into half again and get to 12. So that means each of those thirds I've made into 4 times as many pieces. So I've times 3 by 4 to get to 12. That means I've got to times 2 by 4. So 2/3 is the same as 8/12. Let's just write it out because I think this is a tricky one. You might be struggling to conceptualize it, so you might want to see it written. It's a really messy one there, but 8/12 plus 1/12. So the only answer is going to be 9/12. Okay. This is similar, and I think you can use that same logic. In fact, if you're thinking about it, you'll see a very similar pattern. Find the sum of 1/4, or we might say 1/4, and 5/12. So if we know that 3, when we get multiplied by 3 by 4 to get to 12, then we know that 4 is going to be multiplied by 3 to get to 12. So the increase there is by multiplying by 3. Ooh, that's what I wanted to do. Times 3. Let's get rid of that little guy. So 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. So we're looking at 3/12 and 5/12. 3 plus 5 is 8/12. Right, tricky again because we've got 3 fractions, 1/4, 1/3, 5/12. So it looks like I'm going to need to turn all of these into 12s. So 1/3, I know this already. It's going to be 4/12 because I've got to times this by 4, my denominator here by 4. Those thirds need to be cut into 4 pieces. So that's 4/12. This one, my quarters have to be cut into 3 pieces. That's 3/12. So I've got 3/12, 4/12, and 5/12. 3 plus 4 is 7 plus 5. 7 plus 5. What's that I hear you shout? 12. Brilliant. 12/12, 1 whole. And can you now go to worksheet 9? Again, the links are on the PDF for today. Once you've done the worksheet, can you come back to this video and check your answers, please? Okay, and here you go. Here's the first part. It doesn't matter if you didn't simplify some of them down, that's fine. Hopefully you've seen those patterns, but you can still give yourself the mark if you didn't simplify. Brilliant. And I'll see you for tomorrow's lesson.